Namaste everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing classes are on Bhagavad Gita, offered by Bindoji from an Advaita perspective. We are on chapter 4. The replays of all the previous rooms, you can access them in Clubhouse, or you can go to the links shared in the chat. The YouTube channel called Advaita Retold, all these talks are well catalogued, so you can access them as a series. There are also links to the Apple and Spotify channels where you can access them as audio files. A book written by Artemisia based on Bindoji's insights into Advaita has been published on Amazon. The title of the book is The Imaginary Door. So you can access them on those sites. I'll close the chat. For housekeeping, I'm going to close the chat and hand raising when Bindoji is offering the class, after which we'll open up those channels for any questions or clarifications. As always, thank you, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Namaste and Harim to everyone. The invocations. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsha Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Beda Vivagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Slokam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta Tunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakamo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam Navidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. The verse number 38, which we completed last class, it said, Nahi jnanena sadrisyam pavitramiha vidyati. And the following the promise of 38, if jnana is such a supreme purifier and accomplished karma yogi finds it, what are the conditions that make one such accomplished seeker achieve that jnana? This is being discussed in the verse number 39, which is to follow. Yena ekantena jnana praptihi bhavati sa upayaha upadishyate. That means by which knowledge is invariably attained is being taught in this verse. The verse number 39. Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatparaha samyatendriyaha jnanam labdva param shantim achirenadi gacchati. Shraddhavan, the first word. It's a noun. One who is endowed with Shraddha. Now, Shraddha is among the most profound and philosophically layered terms. Very intriguing and difficult to define. The word meaning Shraddha, literal meaning is placing of the heart. We may not think that that is the meaning of Shraddha. But the intended meaning of that is the orientation of one's deepest being towards something as true and worthy of. Shankaracharya distinguishes Shraddha from Vishwasa, Asta, Bhakti, etc. He says Vishwasa is an interpersonal trust placed in another person, whereas Shraddha has a broader scope. It has got the epistemic and existential orientation of a seeker's entire antakarana or the Indian instrument towards something which he considers worthy of following. Here it is the Shastra and Guru, their statements or what they have mentioned as a valid source of knowledge. Whereas Asta is a functional dependence on the person who is having Asta. What actually Asta makes is that dependency or reliance. Shraddha is deeper than Asta. It is a cognitive receptivity, Shravana Patra Bhava, that quality of being proper receiving vessel. It is the preparation of oneself worthy of becoming a receptor or Guru Upadesha. It's not that one is merely listening to it or hearing it. He becomes a receptor or a receptivity of the person to the Guru's words is what makes Shraddha different from Asta. And Shraddha is different from Bhakti also. While Bhakti and Shraddha overlap, Shraddha specifically addresses the epistemological relationship with the teaching, Shastra and Mahavakya, etc. It is an inner conviction that this teaching, which I am now listening from the Shastra or Guru Vakya, is true and authoritative, and Atman is Brahman. That Tattvajnana is possible for me, which the Guru can transmit. Therefore, the Shraddha is the active cognitive posture that enables the one who is listening for his Shravana to be genuinely a intended meaning of Shravana as a hearing that transforms. A hearing, not just listening. That hearing that transforms. Rather than merely reception of the sound. Whereas Bhakti has no such what you call Shraddha in the Guru Vakya. It is more of a devotion. So even though the overlap is there between the two, Shraddha has got a stand which is defining the person with Shraddha to be a better recipient of higher knowledge like intellectual and higher grades of knowledge. Shankaracharya's most precise gloss on Shraddha is Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satyabuddhi Avataranam. That is the Guru and Shastra Vakya. The confidence in the taking it as the truth in the words of the Guru and the Shastra. It is not a blind belief or a devotion, but rationally informed epistemic receptivity. The student or the Shishya has examined the Guru and convinced that he is a Tattvadarshi. He is what he is talking is what he is practicing. What is he living with? He is walking the talk. And address the Shastra's consistency and validity applied primarily in Vichara and arrived at the conviction that this is true. This is the Pramana I am been looking for. And I should receive it fully. This conviction, which is sustained and deepened in the student or the recipient, is what Shraddha is. But why Shraddha is the first and foundational qualification? Because Shraddha is absolute necessity for Tattva Jnana. Without that, Tattva Jnana cannot fructify. The reason is that Atman, or the self in us, to be known as Pratyagatma, as the innermost subject of my being, not an object. It cannot be known through direct perception, pratyakshadi, which perceives only objects, nor it can be inferred, which operates on the basis of perceived objects. All the inferences are based on perceived objects. But inference in the case of self or Atma, there is no perceived object with which you can do that. Therefore, the only valid pramana for Atma Jnana is Shabda, Agama, Shruti, Guru Vakya, etc. The Upanishad, the Guru Vakya, etc. But the Shabda Pramana operates only for those who are endowed with Shraddha, the Shraddhavan. For the one who accepts Shabda as a Pramana in this domain. And without Shraddha in the Shruti or Guru Vakya, the Upanishadic words like Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi are heard as mere grammatical construction rather than pointing towards directly to the listener to be recognized as my own being. This direct recognition can happen only if Shraddha is the quality of the student. So therefore, Shraddha is just not a supplementary virtue, but it's a precondition for the Pramana, which is called the Shabda Pramana, to function. And since Shabda Pramana is the only means for Atma Jnana, Shraddha is the single most essential prerequisite. This is confirmed later in the 40th verse also. One who doesn't have Shraddha is described in the very next verse as unable to attain Jnana. And the direct negative, the opposite of the 39th, this verse, Shraddhavan, there it is Ashraddhadana. Lot of people doubt what is the guarantee these Upanishadic words or what your teacher or guru says is true. This doubt they have is basically because they don't have the Shraddha. Now, to acquire Shraddha also, there are people who are ready to do that. So when we explain that everything which we can know by the pramanas or the means of knowledge depends upon the pratyaksha. All other pramanas, whether it is anumana, upamana, arthapatti, anupalabdhi, etc., all of them, their basis is on pratyaksha. But Shabda, which is the Upanishad and the Guru Vakya, are the only one which in the entire world which talks about a self which is the subject in us, the innermost subject, Pratyagatma. No other text or those who teach any text can ever discuss or mention about the innermost self or the knower or the subject with about whom they have any means of explanation. They may call it as consciousness in the modern scientific terms. The consciousness, what they are talking in the modern scientific terms, is consciousness as what they perceive as a faculty of knowing in the intellectual or the mental level. But the subject who is even aware of that happening at my intellectual or mental level is never discussed by the science. So what happens is that their method of consciousness inquiry is like any other object inquiry. So they call it as an emergent property of the brain, or, the neurons and the functions of the neurons, etc. But when we say that, Advaitins or the Shastra says that what you are talking about is the function of an instrument, like the eyes is the one which is able to see, and in the retina it is topsy-turvy, what you are seeing outside. But by the time it is cognized by the mind or the intellect, that topsy-turvy image again becomes rectified and becomes straight. All those methodology of the nerves, the connection between the nerves, the eyeball and the nerves, and then electrical signals, chemical signals, the brain receiving receptor, everything they can explain. But how does a object which is away from the eyes becomes a content of knowledge in the intellect or the mind? Let it be at the neuron level or on the brain level. In the presence of what, or what is that ingredient or the matter which catalyzes the light rays which becomes electrical rays into the chemical rays, and then neuron signals, electrical signals again in the brain, etc., to be a knowledge. Now, if they say that the signal itself is the knowledge, what is there they are measuring? They are measuring the signals of the electricity. The signals of electricity is not knowledge. That is what is something can be measured. But the individual, when he says that I am able to know by the sight of something that it is a tree or a fire or a globe like sun or moon, etc. Even if it at distance wise it is so far away. The knowledge at the brain or intellectual level, what is happening, as objects, they are defined. But the subject which is knowing that is never coming under the purview of any of those signs other than Upanishad and the teacher who explained the Upanishad. Therefore, this Shraddha, that this is the only place where I can know about what is my true nature. That, what you call essential prerequisite of a person who is approaching the Shastra or the Guru, is in the terms of Advaita as Shraddha. The next word is Tat Paraha. Tat means that. Paraha Tatparyam. Tatparyam, the word comes from this. Supremely devoted to that. That here is for the referring to the knowledge. The knowledge and the self are not different here. Please understand that. The knowing itself is the being or about which the knowledge is talking about. So Tat Para, the highest supreme, that which is placed above all, or the one for whom Jnana is the supreme concern, the highest priority, or in other words, Sanskrit in says a Paragati, the highest refuge which he is seeking. So Tatpara is not merely interested in Jnana as any other subject or sub-topic, or pursuing Jnana among other pursuits like yoga, karma yoga, etc. But Tatpara is one who has made Jnana their absolute priority. Not only that, he places this Jnana above all other concerns, desires and activities. This is the one and only one concern for him. This is only one and only one desire for him. And to achieve this is all the activity he has got. Nothing else. That is the meaning of the word Tatpara. This is the operationalized nature of Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva is normally, or the intense burning desire for liberation is called as a inner, what you call, prang or desire. But when it becomes operationalized, it will cover not only the desire, the activity for the desire, and where well he can get this information or the knowledge. Everything is surrounded about this knowledge about the self. So this as a mumukshutva, as an intense, tivra stage where the sadhaka or the aspirant has none other than this knowledge as his concern, he is called a tatpara. They will not rest, they cannot be satisfied, they cannot redirect their attention to anything until it is achieved. Their only purpose of life is to acquire this knowledge or to have the tattva jnana. Shankaracharya reads tatpara as the volitional complement to Shraddha's cognitive orientation. Shraddha orients the antakarana towards jnana as true, while tatpara orients the will entirely towards jnana as the supreme and the only ultimately worthwhile pursuit. So one is an action, one is an attitude. Together they constitute the complete inner alignment of the sadhaka or the aspirant. Intellectually believes that is what is Shraddha is there, and the will to achieve that is a commitment, and that is the tatpara. But to that, he needs one more qualification. Samyatendriya. Samyata indriya means, samyata means controlled or restrained. Indriya means senses. So samyatendriya means with controlled or restrained senses. One whose sense faculties are completely restrained. The sum is for completeness. This is the instrumental prerequisite. The psychophysical condition without which Shraddha and Tatpara cannot function or produce jnana. Because even the most Shraddhavan and Tatpara seeker cannot attain jnana if his senses are unrestrained. We should remember the example of the chariot and the horses. If the horses are not bridled properly, the horses will run not in the direction which you want that horses to go. It will pull in different direction. So constantly pulling the antakarana towards the vishya contact or the subject-object contact. Each one creating a vikshepa means mental agitation each time, and preventing the sustained and unbroken inward attention which Shraddha and Tatpara is wanting to achieve. Therefore, nididhyasana becomes successful only with restrained sense organ and Shraddha and Tatpara. So Samyata Indriya corresponds to almost equal to the Dhamma or the Shatsampatti. Without Dhamma, which is the senses continuously scatter the antakarana's attention towards all the objects, preventing the antakarana from doing the inward gathering, that is pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, etc., samadhi towards, which should otherwise culminate in the aparoksha anubhava. That will not happen. Therefore, tattva jnana cannot happen. Shankaracharya note that the specific mechanism by which the unrestrained senses obstruct jnana, each sensory contact with a vishaya of its corresponding nature, generates a vritti or a mental modification like a wave in the antakarana. And the accumulated vrittis or the mental modification, all of them constitute a turbulence in the antakarana, in the instrument, which turns out becomes a vikshepa. Vikshepa means a projection of the inner energy into the objects of the senses, which prevents the antakarana from becoming still, transparent medium through which Atman's self-luminatory luminosity can be recognized. So nididhyasana is not possible. Not only that, the vikshepa of the antakarana will not allow the antakarana to be tranquil, and only in a tranquil, settled mind, the Atma can be self-luminous. Therefore, samyata indriya, complete restraint of senses, progressively stills the vritti turbulence, allowing the antakarana to become prasanna, means serene, and thereby transparent to aparoksha anubhava, which is the jnana's self-revelation. The three together complete the adhikara portrait or the eligibility of an aspirant. Shraddhavan, the antakarana oriented towards Shabda Pramana as valid, making Shravana genuinely operative. Tatparaha is the entire will directed towards the jnana as supreme, making Manana and Nididhyasana sustained and unbroken. Samyata Indriya, the senses when restrained, prevents the vikshepa of the mind or mental turbulence, making the antakarana still and the transparent medium for the aparoksha anubhava. So Shraddhavan, Tatparaha, Samyata Indriya. These three together constitute the Jnana Adhikari, one who is fully qualified to receive and realize Tattva-jnana. Their sequential order in the verse is also sequential order of their development in the sadhana. Shraddha comes first. Only Shraddha, if it is there, it arises through the contact with Satsanga and Shastra exposure. The Shraddha gets developed in the Pramana. Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satyabuddhi Avataranam. That develops into the Tatpara nature, which develops as a Shraddha deepens and Vairagya intensifies. Therefore, his will to achieve the knowledge of what he has heard from the Shastra and the Guru Vakya, that what is Atma Brahma, and how it is that, a Jivan Mukta or a Tattvajnani, how does he experience the Sthitaprajnasya behavior, and how it is useful in mitigating the sorrows of life, how it can really redeem you from the pranks of the the Vyavaharika life, and what is the benefit of having this knowledge of Aparokshanubhuti. All these things will become convincing to the Tatpara Adhikari. And that is the time when he realized that to achieve that knowledge, he need to control or regulate his senses. Therefore, he develops through the yoga abhyasa that samadama, uparati, titiksha, all of them, shat sampatti, toward that the tatpara motivation is the driver for the, samyada indriya to take place. Therefore, the three together mutually helping each other, reinforcing a development in the antakarana of the aspirant or the sadhaka, each deepening the other two. And that way it becomes deeper and deeper and more convinced, and Shraddhavan becomes the ultimate until the antakarana becomes fully ripe and the aparoksha anubhava takes place. That is the phalam. So, what is the phalam? Jnanam labdva. Having obtained that jnanam, param shantim achirenadhigacchati. So, jnanam labdva, having obtained or after obtaining that jnanam, so the Shraddhavan Tatpara Samyata Indriya through the Guru Upadesha is what the fruit what is now happening. Shabda, Labda, Jnanam. So Jnanam Labda picks up the verses opening Labade Jnanam, obtains Jnana. The same Jnana obtained becomes the ground for the fruit for Shanti. Having obtained that knowledge or Jnana that the Shraddhavan obtains, then this is further becoming the serenity or the tranquility on the person who has achieved it. Param Shanti, supreme peace. Both these words together, the para and Shanti, both of them have got extremely highly philosophical weight in the Advaitic system. Para, superlative sense as an adjective. Para means highest, supreme. Param Brahma, Paramatma. So we know the highest or supreme or unsurpassable is the word para means. In the chapter 4 there we have seen this Parabrahma, highest Brahman, Brahma Sanathanam, Paran Shanti in this verse, the peace that surpasses all. All this thing indicates that the peace beyond which no greater peace exists, the supreme final irreducible peace, which is the Ananda, which we talk about, Satchit Ananda. That is the Parashanti. The peace and the tranquility, the cessation of all agitation, when your mind has nothing to agitate for, because it is content in the knowledge of the self. It is Nitya Tripti, the eternal what you call happiness or fulfillment. When there is nothing more to be achieved, it is not a slumber or a what you call tamas, but it is brimming with peace and happiness. So, Shanti is the peace, tranquility, the cessation of all agitation. That which is characterized by the complete stillness or cessation of what you call the sama. Shanti is not merely the absence of conflict. at the intellect, in the antakarana level, but a positive recognition of the inherent stillness of Atman. The Atman's stillness is what is called the Shanti of Brahman itself. Brahma Shanti. Shantoyam Atma. Brihadaranya Upanishad says that Atma is Shanta. The 4th chapter, 4th pada, 23rd mantra, Brihadaranya Upanishad says that I am Atma Shantaha. This Atman is Shanta. So Parashanti, Brahman itself experienced as ultimate peace. There is no difference between Atman, Brahman, and the peace or the tranquility it is. And that is the Ananda. That is Brahman Swarupa, Anandamaya. Recognized as one's own Swarupa. Enjoying one's own serenity. There is nothing to be seen outside or inside other than Atma. Atma is ever present in all of us. It is Atma what is our true natures. And that is the time when the mind is not agitated, either by the waking or by the dream. The mind is, or the antakarana is at peace with itself. This is not a temporary peace of resolved conflict, Shranika Shanti, but eternal self-established peace of a Nitya Tripta Atman. Eternally satisfied or fulfilled Atman. The Nitya Shanti, that is independent of all external conditions. Shankaracharya identifies Parashanti as identical with moksha. Shankaracharya says that Shanti is the moksha. So Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti is nothing but moksha. It's not a state leading to moksha, but moksha itself. Experienced as supreme peace. The Jivan Mukta who has attained Tattva Jnana, Brahmanishta, he is Nitya Tripta. He is Vidaraga Bhaya Krodha. From him, the Raga Bhaya Krodha has Vita, has gone. He is Dvandvadita, beyond all duality. There is only one, Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma. And since he is an Akarta, Abhokta, all his karma has been Bhasmasat Kritam. It has been reduced into ashes. He has no more action to be done. Nothing to be done further. Yad labdva na param labham. There is nothing more to be achieved or gained beyond what is already achieved by Atma Sakshatkara. And he abides in Parashanti, the irreversible, self-sustaining condition independent of peace of Atman, self-recognition. This is the peace of Shantim Adhigacchati, what we studied in the 71st verse of 2nd chapter when the Sthita Prajna was mentioned. And the same thing will come in the next chapter also, 5th chapter. Shantim Nigacchati, reaches peace. The same Shanti at which all of the Gita's teaching is directed towards. If you have peace, what more do you want? The only thing what we are all wanting is absolute peace. And that absolute peace is our true nature. That is the Atma Swarupa, the nature of our self. But when the mind and intellect, Andakarana, is not able to recognize that, they run towards outside objects due to the Indriyas attachment toward the objects of sense organs. That is why the Samyatendriya, that aspect is a must for the Shanti, for the absolute peace. But how does it? Will it take time for me to Shraddha, then Tatpara, so controlling the sense organs? Is it not difficult? Each time I have to work towards that. So I'll have to close my eyes, close my ears, close my senses and do samadhi, yoga, all of them. Gita doesn't say that. It is the knowledge which helps for the sense organs to withdraw from the sense objects, which we studied earlier. Indriyani indriyarteshu. The sense objects are meant for the sense. It is not for the Atma or the self. So when that is understood, the Indriyas are not anymore working for you. Therefore, the control you are doing is by detaching the Indriyas, and attention of the Andakarana, instead of to the senses and the sense objects outside, is turned inward. That is the Shraddha and the Tatpara. That person relishes and enjoys only in the Shastra Vakya, the teaching of the Guru or the Upanishad. And he continues to relish in that, never letting his Indriyas overcome the desires of external objects. Because his desire has now become Tatparaha, in the completeness of the knowledge of Jnana. So when does he achieve that? Krishna says, Achirena. Achirena means without delay, quickly, in the shortest possible time. Achira, A means not. Chira means long. Achira means without wasting long time, or there is no long time waiting for it. So the Achirena means in no long time, quickly, without delay. This single word is Shankaracharya's occasion for his most compassionate and encouraging commentary in the entire chapter. The Achirena addresses the temporal anxiety of the mumukshu. How long will it take? Will I have to practice the sadhana for countless lifetimes, births? How many? What is the means? When can the jnana arise in me? All these questions is haunting the student because he wants it immediately. Shankaracharya's response is that Achirena asserts that for the one who has genuinely fulfilled the qualifications of Shraddha, Tatpara and Samyata Indriya and received the Guru Upadesha by Pranipata, Pariprashna and Seva, the arising of the jnana is not distant. It is instantaneous. The implication being that Tattva Jnana can arise in this very life, Iha Eva, potentially within the current period of sadhana itself, not requiring countless future births, etc. But at the same time, Shankaracharya is careful. It doesn't mean instantaneously. The Aparokshanubhava itself is instantaneous. It is not, it is a recognition, it is not a process. It means that for the fully qualified adhikari who has Shraddhavan, Tatpara, Samyadendriya, the ripening of the Antakarana to the point of jnana readiness is a matter of this life, not future lives. The sadhana of Pranipada Pariprashna Seva need not extend across janmas for the one in whom all the three qualifications are operative. That is why I keep saying that Shravana Samakale Eva Jnana for the most apt adhikari. The philosophical basis of this achirena, instantaneous or without delay. Atman is Nitya Siddha. Always ready and accomplished already with us. That is our true nature. The moksha is not a new acquisition but a recognition what was always present. Praptasya prapti. Since the Atman is always there, always fully present, always self-luminous, and it is in that luminous tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. The delay is not in Atman, but only in the removal of the avarana, thickness of the avarana. For the Shraddhavan Tatpara Samyadendriya Adhikari, whose avarana has been substantially thinned or reduced by sadhana, jnana arises sachirena. The recognition is close and not distant. Adhigacchati means attains, reaches or arrives at. Adi plus gam. Completely attains, fully reaches. Yadgatva nanivartande. After having reached that, there is no returning back. There is no outside where he has to go, or no place where he has reached and he has to go back, or he has somewhere else to do. The adi prefix intensifies completely, not a partial approach, but complete arrival at Parashanti. This is the culmination of this stanza. And as the present tense adhigacchati is in the present rather than future or later period. This is what happens necessarily when the conditions are met. It is a universally present thing, and standing truth about the jnani becomes the jnana shanti relationship. The relationship between the jnana and the shanti is one and the same. So the Shraddha, the three qualifications here, it is as equivalent to the sadhana chatushtaya. The Shraddhavan, and then what we call it as Tatparaha and Samyatandriya is equal to Viveka Vairagya, Shatsampatti and Mumukshutva of the sadhana chatushtaya. They are not additional requirements beyond the sadhana chatushtaya. But the sadhana chatushtaya seen from a specific angle of jnana receptivity. The sadhana chatushtaya properties are mostly directly relevant to an arising tattva jnana. And here, it is the final moments of tattva jnana's arising. The parashanti as the positive content, na punar moham, equivalent to that. Or the navidya. Therefore, the param shantim adhigacchati, achirena adhigacchati, is a positive description of the same Jivan Mukti. Parashanti is not merely the absence of agitation, which we are, Shanti means without agitation, we think that way. Which would have otherwise said that Sama, Dhamma, etc. But Shanti is a positive recognition of Atman or Brahman's own Swabhava, Shanta Swarupa, or the Satchidananda Ananda, experienced as infinite, unconditional, self-sustaining peace. This is the full positive content, which is earlier referred as punarmoham, vimokshase, etc. Not merely freedom from moha, but the positive abidance in the Brahman's Swarupa as Shanti Swarupa. This verse complete the adhikari or adhikara portrait of the eligible jnana seeker. What is the fruit of success also? Parashantim adhigacchati. Now the fourth chapter now moves toward the closing of the characteristics. What happens if you don't have Shraddha? What you don't have the, samyama or for controlling the sense organs, etc. This opposite of this verse is what is being discussed in the next one. The Bhashya says, Shraddhavan Shraddhalu, the man who has faith, labhade, attains jnanam, knowledge. Shraddhalu tu api, even though one has faith, kaschit mandaprasthanha, maybe he is, not committed. Ata aha, therefore the Lord says, tatparaha, who is diligent. Guru prasade prasadanadau abhiyuktaha, steadfast in the service of the teacher. Jnana labdyupaye shraddhavan, which are the means of attaining knowledge. Tatparaha api ajitendriyaha syad ityataha. Even when one has faith and is diligent, one may not have control over the sense organs. Therefore, hence the Lord says, samyatendriyaha. So one leading to another. Shraddha leading to tatpara, tatpara leading to samyendra. Samyatani vishayebhyoho nivartitani yasya indriyani saha samyatendriyaha. One who has control over the sense organs. He whose organs have been withdrawn, samyata, from the objects. Ya evam bhudaha. Who he is such a person, Shraddhavan, full of faith, tatparaha, diligent, samyati indriyascha, has the control over the sense organs, avasyam jnanam labhade. He definitely attains the knowledge. Pranipadadishu brahmot anaikantikatto api bhavati. However, that pranipada, prostrations, etc., which are external, are not invariably fruitful. Reason? Mayavitvadi sambhavat. For there is a scope of, dissimulation of faith, etc. Natu tat shraddhavantaha adau ityekantataha jnana labdhyupayaha. But this is not so in the case of one possessing the shraddha, faith. Hence they are the unfailing means of acquiring knowledge. Ityekanta jnana labdhi upayaha, acquiring means of knowledge. Kim punaha jnana labhat syat ichyate. Again, what will result from gaining this knowledge? This is being answered. Jnanam labdva param mokshakyam shantim uparatim achirena shiprameva adhigacchati. Labdva jnanam, after achieving that knowledge, adhigacchati, one attains, achirena, soon, param shanti, supreme peace, supreme detachment called liberation. Samyak darshanat shiprameva moksha bhavati iti sarva shastra nyaya prasiddhaha sunishchitaha arthaha. That liberation soon follows from full knowledge is a fact well ascertained from all the scriptures and the reasoning. Now we will deal the opposite of, if you don't have Shraddha, Tatpara and some Indriya control is not possible, what will happen to such a person is explained in the next verse, which is the 40th verse, which we will see tomorrow. Om Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamutachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyawad. Prakash, you are muted. If you were saying anything, Prakash, you are muted. That's why your mic is showing as muted. The hand raising is open. If anybody has any question or anything doubt to be clarified, please come up. Namaste, Srini.
Namaste, Vinduji. A couple of things I wanted to check is with this statements like Nahi Jnanena Sadrusham Pavitram Iha Vidyate. Isn't there a clear distinction drawn between Jnana and something other than Jnana here? Shouldn't it be looked at like that?
Yeah, it is very clear. The only jnana can remove the ajnana, and ajnana is the reason for all karma and the related problems. Therefore, the only thing which can redeem you from your, wrongdoings and problems of life is to get rid of the ignorance. And that can be done only through jnana. That is why jnanena sahadrasham pavitram iha vidyate.
Then this distinction of things which are not pavitra, will it be there for a jnani also, or for him it doesn't exist?
For a jnani it doesn't exist, because for him it is a dagda bijavat.
Yeah. So this param shanti kind of thing, when it is attained, because if we say that Jnani is not performing any action or he is always in that Shanti state, then that is one way of saying. But other way when we say that the action continues or whatever, Loka Sangraha or something, at that point in those things, doesn't the distinction exist? Is that is?
No, distinction exists. See, the thing is that he will be seeing acting from our point of view, from others' point of view. But from his approach and his internal established knowledge is that Sarvam is Brahman. For him, it is seeing everything is it. See, for example, if I to tell that, knowing that everything is in space, using space and having dependency on the space doesn't change us interacting with the objects. Including us, we are using space for our own existence. But when it is known that it is the consciousness, Satchidananda awareness, in which even the space is existing, the existence itself is what is being referred to. Therefore, the aspect of seeing something within that will not make the person behave differently. For him, that separatedness has gone. The separated entities may be seen, but he knows that they are all nothing but space which is being occupied by. The tree also occupies the space, the dog also occupies the space, or the Brahmana also occupies the space. But from a Jnani's point of view, everything is nothing but Satchidananda. So he will see the snake, he will see the dog, he will see the tree, he will see the Brahmana, as what we are also seeing. But his knowledge that it is not a Brahmana or it is not a dog, it is not this thing, it is not like that. He knows that the dog is also Brahman, the Brahmana is also Brahman, the tree is also Brahman, and the snake is also Brahman. Doesn't make that the snake will bite me and, therefore it is Brahman, so it doesn't matter. No, he won't do that way. That he knows these things are operational at the Vyavaharika level, and that Vyavaharika level importance is only what it is got. And it will continue to be in the Vyavaharika, you have to be a Vyavaharika person. But the knowledge that everything is in Vyavahara because of the substratum of the Satchidananda in which the Vyavahara is appearing is the knowledge of the Jnani.
Yes, that is understandable. But is he even able to see the Vyavahara and Paramartha distinction, or because he is able to do bodha, right? For different levels of adhikaris, he is able to give different levels of techniques or teachings.
Yes.
So that means he can distinguish between Vyavahara and Paramartha, right?
He has the knowledge. That is why he is a Jnani. He sees the Paramartha, no? He knows the Paramartha. He knows that as his own nature and the nature of everything what is there in the Vyavahara. But Vyavahara is not real. It is what you call appearance in the Satchidananda or the consciousness. See, the problem is that when we use the word, it is not real, it is appearing as in this thing. We are immediately thinking like a cloud or something which is intangible or, non-accessible. It is not that way. When it is said that the Vyavahara is unreal, it is unreal means it has a dependency on something for its own existence. For example, a chair, when I am saying the chair is not real, the wood is real, doesn't mean that the chair is not wood. I know the chair is wood, and the wood is the reason why the chair has got a shape, and it is got a transactional value, which is called the vyavahara. Right? What happens is that when it is being told that the chair and the tree are not different, they both are wood, doesn't mean that I can go and sit on a tree like I sit on a chair. That distinction between a tree and a chair, even though both are made of wood, is transactionally accepted by that. But he knows the reality that the dependency of the chair is also on the tree, and the tree's own existence is also on the tree only by the existence as a tree. That is what is the, what you call knowledge, what will be there in that jnani. So he knows that the consciousness, the Satchidananda Brahma, is the reality for the entire transaction. And the transaction will continue to happen in the way in which it is happening now. But they have a dependency on Atman or Brahman for their own existence.
Okay, Bindu. And one more thing, like when we say he is Shrotriya and Brahmanishta, right? So, Brahmanishta can be understood as a that Param Shanti or the Jnana state or something like that. And Shrotriya is nothing but the Vyavaharika state only, right? So,
Shrotriya is a Vyavaharika state.
Yeah.
He knows the word Shastra and the Shastra, the Upanishadic mantras and the meanings.
He's able to operate two vehicles at a time, something like that, right? That is what I was saying. So when we say nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate, we are essentially comparing something like a Shrotriya and Brahmanishta, right? Like a Vyavaharika reality and a Paramadhika reality, right?
Right. So because jnani jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate, iha means where? In the Vyavahara.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
In the Paramartha, there is no Shastra, no Brahmavit or nothing. It is only all that is Brahman only.
Yeah. Got it, Bindoji. Thank you.
Namaste, Yash. Namaste. Anybody else? Prakash? You're able to talk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was frozen for a bit. Yes, I'm okay now. Yeah, froze up. So this here the qualification of the Shraddha is the Shraddha of the Mumukshu, right? Mumukshu.
Yes.
It's got that
Yes,
added.
Mumukshu. Yeah. Mumukshu is the one who has the need for Shraddha. Jnani doesn't need Shraddha because he has crossed over.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, then we'll meet tomorrow.
One quick thing, Bindoji. In this Mumukshu and Shraddha area, so now once there is a categorization of Vyavahara and Paramartha, can we say that the Vyavahara itself is again the Adhikari and Bheda is coming only because in Vyavahara there are some other categorizations, right? Like some might have Shraddha, some might not have Shraddha, some might be Mumukshu, some might, so different ways. Where to start the journey, that differences come. So all those classifications, so Vyavahara itself will be classified into some other multiple brackets or something. Is that the right way to think of it?
Yeah, you see, all these things are from the Vyavaharika point of view. in this adhikari levels, everything is from the point of view of Vyavahara only, no? Once you have achieved jnana, the truth is that everything is Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. The Sarvam is there. That is why Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma is being told. The Sarvam is dependent on Brahma, therefore Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. If the space is removed, can you show me one object without space, requirement of space? No. Same way, without Satchit Ananda, that's existence, consciousness and bliss aspect of the nature. We can't even say an object because there is no objectifiable thing there at that time. Even though we call it as Vastutandra, at that level there is only one, then you don't call it as a Vastutandra.
Hello.
And then what you have to say is that you have to accept it is that as a what do you call transactional thing. Can you please wait? Can you please wait?
Is there any astrologer here?
This is not a place for astrology, Monica. That is some other room you have to go. Here we are talking about Advaita. So this requirement of this Vyavahara, everything is in Vyavahara. And in Vyavahara only the Adhikara difference is, Adhikari difference is there, the Jnana is there, the Shastra is there, the Vedas are there, the Upanishads are there, everything is from the Vyavahariya point. Therefore Vyavahara is true. It is not that it is true. The truth of the Vyavahara is the truth of the Brahman. But when we do not know the truth of Brahman, the Vyavahara occupies an independent reality of its own. There is no independent reality other than there is only one reality. That, if it is understood and that transaction is taken place, such a person has nothing to gain, nothing to lose. He is no more under the clutches of the in sense organs because he doesn't see the otherness. He sees only that it is all Brahman only, appearing as a Brahmana. Next chapter it will come now. Brahmana, Shunija Ipashopa Kecha Pandita Samadarshina, that mantra will come. That shloka will come. It shows that his way in which he sees that is that it is not, doesn't mean that he sees a Brahmana and the dog in the same way. He knows the reality of the Brahmana, the reality of the dog, the reality of the Chandala. Everything is based on the reality, only one reality, and that reality is Brahman.
So here when we say Shraddhavan Labate Jnanam, we can say that Ashraddhavan Na Labate Jnanam also, right? Like,
that is next verse is that.
So in that way, so within the Vyavaharika, there are bifurcations like someone with Shraddha, without Shraddha. So, and a person without Shraddha is very unlikely to understand this concept of space or existence or these things, right?
Yes.
So in Vyavaharika itself only, there are some levels to pass, and finally when the Shraddha and Mumukshatva come, then the Jnana aspect can be realized, like that I was saying.
Yes. Achirena adhigacchati.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bindaji. Beautiful session. Yeah.
Thank you, Srini. Namaste, Rajesh.
Namaste, Bindaji. I have question about these levels. Okay, so from Vyavaharika to this Atma experience, so we have levels, right? Even in Advaita Vedanta.
Level? What do you mean by level?
From Vyavaharika to the self-realization.
No, Vyavahara is an aspect. It is not a level. But in that Vyavahara, we will say different levels. We will say different levels. Those who are totally not interested, those people who are interested only in the, the different yajnas which we say, Deva yajna, material yajna, all that type of people, or different levels are there. And The one which is coming toward the knowledge, that is the time when he realized that all these levels are nothing but attributions given depending upon the levels of ignorance which one is holding on. But all comes under the ignorant level. Even that Shravana Manana Nididhyasana as a doer, I am doing Shravana Manana Nididhyasana as a doership is there. That is also under the ignorance or the Vyavahara only. But the moment that Nididhyasana fructifies into Jnanam Labdua, the moment that Jnanam is considered, he knows that all these things are I was doing due to ignorance. I was Brahman always. I was always Atma. I never, even when I was not doing the activities like, studies or the Shravana, Manana, Yoga, or all of them, that time also I was not knowing I was Atma, but I was doing those things. That knowledge when he shines upon you, then you have achieved your shanti. You don't feel, you are not. It is just like looking back and ridiculing ourselves for our foolishness. It is that type.
Okay, Bindoji. Yeah, that's what I want. That's why they call this mumuksha and other things until realization. After
Yes,
realization, these are all not real. It never happened. He will understand. Right?
yes, absolutely, exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bindoji. Thank you, Prakash ji.
Thank you, Rajesh. Okay, Prakash, we'll close then.
Okay. Yes. Thank you everyone for attending this session. So we will continue tomorrow, same time at 8:30 p.m. IST. So tomorrow being Friday, we'll have a break, and then on Sunday we'll reconvene for the open discussion on Advaita at 8:30 p.m. IST. If you want to do the Shravana Manana, you can access the replays in Clubhouse, or you can go to the links shared in the chat. The YouTube channel is a well-organized channel where you can access them in a series. And as always, thank you very much, Bindoji. Over to you to close the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Srini. Thank you, Rajesh. We'll meet tomorrow. The opposite of what we discussed today. It will be for the one who doesn't have Shraddha, etc., which will come tomorrow. Hari Om.